Then the other category of strategies we talk about have to do with reducing the obstacles to home ownership that African Americans face in every neighborhood, providing down payment assistance, home ownership counseling, reforming the credit scoring system to be more fair and less racially discriminatory in its impact, subsidizing the construction of home ownership for African Americans in all types of neighborhoods. Now, we understand that we can't address or redress the harms of segregation without addressing home ownership and closing that home ownership gap between Blacks and whites, and that we can't close the racial wealth gap that my dad talked about without closing the racial home ownership gap. Home ownership is key to increasing family wealth. So in opening up home ownership opportunities to Black households is essential if we're to truly redress the consequences of those past government policies that blocked them from home ownership when it was affordable. There's lots of ways we can do that. One is through providing down payment assistance specifically targeted to African Americans. Now, I understand that this might seem risky, especially today with the Supreme Court insisting that we're a colorblind society and getting rid of affirmative action and university admissions. But we argue that we need race-specific remedies to remedy the race-specific crimes that our government committed against African Americans by prohibiting them, for example, from participating in home ownership when it was affordable and subsidizing whites to build wealth through home ownership. The only way to truly redress and remedy that harm is through race-specific programs targeted to those who suffered the harms from those government crimes. Now, there are other remedies, other ways of directing down payment assistance that aren't race specific, first-time homebuyer down payment assistance programs, first-generation homebuyer. Those get to more African Americans than, a general down payment assistance program, but they don't, whites will still outnumber African Americans in the pools of applicants for those programs. So the only way to truly reach African Americans through a down payment assistance program is through a race-specific program. So we argue in Just Action that advocates for these types of remedies we should all have the courage to enact them, even in the face of what we expect will be opposition or legal challenges. Because if we can tie the remedy to the harms of the past, which were race-specific, we have legal justification and can build up case law that can support these types of programs. So we can have the courage to enact them, and then we can also use the authority that is already provided through the federal government to enact race-specific programs like down payment assistance. One way is through the Special Purpose Credit Program. This is an authority provided through the federal government to financial institutions, any lending institution, where they can create a race-specific product if they can prove through a study that that race has been disadvantaged by the financial system in their area. Not hard to prove through all of the examples you've been hearing about today. And this, this authority, the Special Purpose Credit Program, it's been on the books since the 70s, but only recently have banks started to use it. And I would argue they're not using it to the full extent, the full ability that it provides. Many banks are creating special purpose credit programs that are targeted by neighborhood rather than by the mortgage holder, which, if you target a down payment assistance program to a majority minority neighborhood, it either furthers the segregation of that neighborhood or finances the gentrification of that neighborhood. But if you target the down payment assistance by the race of the applicant, the mortgage applicant, then that provides opportunity for those who've been disadvantaged by the financial institution to live wherever they want and opens up home ownership opportunities for them in any neighborhood. So we argue for a more widespread use and more targeted use of special purpose credit programs by banks and lending institutions. And there's also ways for public agencies to use the special purpose credit program to create race-specific financial assistance products. And the first public agency to do that is in Washington State, where the Housing Finance Commission is starting a special purpose credit program authorized through the Washington State Covenant Home Ownership Act, which was passed last year. And that act was passed after researchers at the University of Washington identified over 50,000 racially restrictive covenants all over the state. These are the covenants written into the deeds of homes that said that the homes could only ever be owned or occupied by whites. So they're using that knowledge of the history and that evidence to justify the special purpose credit program. And what the act does is it applies a $100 fee on every real estate transaction in the state that will fund the special purpose credit program, that will then provide down payment assistance to the descendants of those families who were restricted from home ownership by those restrictive covenants and other government policies that discriminated in home ownership.